Have you ever sat in front of your laptop, staring at work you know you need to do, but your body just refuses to move? Not because you're lazy. Not because you don't care. But because something inside you feels completely exhausted. You tell yourself, I need to try harder. I'm becoming unmotivated. Why can't I function like everyone else? But deep down, something feels wrong. Because the truth is, a lot of people calling themselves lazy are actually emotionally damaged by chronic workplace stress. And nobody talks about it. Not the panic before opening emails. Not the emotional numbness after work. Not the constant exhaustion that sleep doesn't fix. Not the feeling that your nervous system never truly relaxes anymore. That's not always laziness. Sometimes, that's workplace trauma. And millions of employees are silently experiencing it right now without realizing it. So if this video feels painfully relatable at any point, take a second to like the video, subscribe, and comment below. I thought I was lazy too. Because these conversations matter more than people realize. Especially in a world where exhausted people are constantly shamed for struggling emotionally. So let's talk about the 7 signs you may have work PTSD. And are mistaking it for laziness. And honestly, some of these signs may hit harder than expected. Sign 1, you feel exhausted before the day even starts. One of the clearest signs of workplace trauma is waking up tired before anything even happens. Your body already feels heavy. Your mind already feels overwhelmed. And the thought of opening your laptop instantly drains your energy emotionally. That's not normal tiredness. That's anticipatory stress. Your nervous system has become conditioned to associate work with emotional danger. So even before the workday starts, your body begins preparing for survival mode. That's why some employees wake up anxious before checking messages. Because psychologically, their brain expects pressure, criticism, stress, or emotional exhaustion. And over time, this constant nervous system activation creates burnout so deep it starts looking like laziness from the outside. But laziness doesn't usually come with panic, dread, or emotional shutdown. Trauma does. And honestly, many employees have been functioning in survival mode for so long they forgot what emotional peace even feels like. If this feels painfully familiar already, comment below. My body is tired before work even starts. You are definitely not alone. Sign 2, small tasks feel emotionally overwhelming. This one confuses people deeply. You sit down to do something simple. Reply to emails. Finish paperwork. Attend a meeting. And suddenly your brain feels frozen. You procrastinate. Avoid. Scroll endlessly. Stare blankly at the screen. Then you hate yourself for it afterward. But emotionally exhausted nervous systems often struggle with basic cognitive function. Especially after prolonged stress. Because burnout doesn't just drain energy. It damages mental capacity. And eventually, your brain starts resisting anything associated with workplace stress. Not because you're lazy, but because your nervous system sees work as emotionally unsafe. That's why people with workplace trauma often feel mentally paralyzed, emotionally disconnected, or unable to focus. Their body isn't refusing effort. It's refusing more damage. And honestly, that distinction changes everything. Because self-hatred becomes very common when people misunderstand trauma as personal failure. Sign 3, you can't relax even after work. This is one of the most overlooked signs. You finally leave work. Close the laptop. Get home. But mentally, you never actually leave. Your thoughts keep racing. Your body stays tense. You feel guilty resting. You keep checking notifications. You expect problems at any moment. That's not healthy productivity. That's hypervigilance. Your nervous system has learned. Work stress can appear anytime. So now your body struggles to feel safe even during rest. And over time, this destroys emotional recovery completely. That's why so many employees feel exhausted even after weekends. Because psychologically, their nervous system never truly stopped working. And honestly, a lot of people watching this video probably haven't felt genuinely relaxed in years. If this conversation feels important so far, share this video with someone silently struggling emotionally at work. Because many people think they're broken, when really they're just chronically overwhelmed. And subscribe if you want more deep workplace psychology and emotional truths most people are too afraid to discuss honestly. Sign 4, you feel emotionally numb. This one scares people because it slowly changes who they are. At some point, you stop feeling excited. Stop caring deeply. Stop reacting emotionally. You become emotionally flat. Not because you want to, but because your nervous system became exhausted from constant stress. So your brain starts conserving emotional energy by shutting parts of you down. That's why many burned out employees say things like, "I don't feel like myself anymore. I used to care more. I feel emotionally empty." And sadly, many people interpret this numbness as laziness or lack of ambition. When really, it's emotional survival. Because workplace trauma doesn't always create emotional chaos. Sometimes it creates emotional silence. And honestly, that silence can become terrifying after a while. Sign 5, you constantly blame yourself. This is one of the darkest psychological effects of toxic workplaces. You start believing you're weak, unmotivated, incompetent, or lazy, even when your body is clearly exhausted. Because many toxic work cultures normalize emotional suffering. So employees begin assuming, if I can't keep up, something must be wrong with me. That belief slowly destroys self-worth. And over time, people stop recognizing their own burnout. They just see themselves as failures. That's why so many hardworking employees secretly hate themselves emotionally. Not because they failed, but because they internalized impossible expectations for too long. And honestly, a lot of people need to hear this. Struggling after chronic stress does not make you lazy. It makes you human. Sign 6, you avoid work even when you need money. This one confuses people deeply. You know you need the income. You know the consequences. But emotionally, your body still resists work. Why? Because trauma changes behavior. Your nervous system begins associating work with stress, humiliation, emotional danger, or exhaustion. So avoidance becomes self-protection. Even when logically it creates problems. That's why many emotionally burned out employees feel trapped between financial survival and emotional collapse. And honestly, that internal conflict destroys people quietly. Because from the outside it looks irrational. But psychologically, it makes perfect sense. Sign 7, you don't feel like the same person anymore. This is the final sign. And honestly, the most painful one. At some point, you realize work didn't just exhaust you. It changed you. You became more anxious, more detached, more emotionally numb, more exhausted, less hopeful, less alive. And the terrifying part is, it happened slowly. So slowly that you barely noticed until one day you looked at yourself and thought, "What happened to me?" That moment breaks people emotionally. Because they realize the workplace didn't just take their energy. It took parts of their identity too. And honestly, millions of employees are silently grieving the version of themselves they lost to survival mode. So if this video connected with you emotionally, comment below. What's one thing work changed about you emotionally? I genuinely read the comments. And conversations like this matter because many people are suffering silently while blaming themselves for symptoms created by chronic workplace stress. Also, like this video if you've ever mistaken emotional exhaustion for laziness. Share it with someone currently struggling to function emotionally because of work. And subscribe for more deep workplace psychology, emotional realism, and cinematic corporate storytelling every week. Because sometimes the problem isn't that you became lazy. Sometimes your nervous system is simply exhausted from surviving environments that slowly broke you emotionally.